What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 216. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You could drop a follow over there. You'll get notified when we go live, so you join in the fun and conversation with us as we record. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching, listening to the show, if you do me a favor, hit the follow, hit the subscribe button. It may seem small, but it does help the channel grow, so if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Two different topics today. We're going to be talking some wrestling as Backlash happened over the weekend, just going over the results there, and we're going to be diving into some TV as we talk about X-Men 97. But let's talk about our first topic one with being Backlash. So yeah, this happened this past weekend as of recording over in Lyon, France. About 3-hour pay-per-view, 5 matches? No, 6 matches. I can count. Hold on. 5. I'm stupid. 5 matches. But overall, I'd say pretty, it was a good pay-per-view. It was really fun, but I think the thing that really brought it above and beyond, or helped it elevate it, was the crowd, which we've obviously been seeing with these foreign market pay-per-views. Obviously Backlash from last year being, well, even before that, Clash of the Castle, just crowds who obviously, they get the European tours here and there, but maybe don't get to see WWE obviously as often as American audiences do. So when they had the opportunity to go to this show, or go to the show that's obviously in their home country, these guys show up and show out, and France was no different. They were insane the entire night, with some very interesting chants, and just had a lot of energy throughout. So I think they really helped everything throughout the night. Not that the wrestlers did a bad job in any way, shape, or form. Were there a few botches or mishaps here and there? Sure, but that happens. But nothing was bad in terms of a match. They were pretty entertaining, even if predictable. And, it was just a fun show to watch overall. So, jumping into the first match, we had Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga making his in-ring debut, at least in terms of television, going against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Bloodline would win. For a while here, Orton and Owens were just kind of beating the shit out of Bloodline, and I was a little concerned. Like, I understand, you got to beat down the bad guys, so eventually, you get the feel-good moment with the good guys. But I was like, aren't you guys supposed to be really ruthless and aggressive and, like, kind of unstoppable? You got stopped pretty fast. At least that's what the build-up seemed. Solo obviously has been up in the air, mix-wise, of, like, he's this enforcer character, or he gets beat a lot. I think Cena was the last big victory he had with all those Samoan spikes, and then since then it's kind of been downhill leading into Mania and stuff like that. And then Tama Tonga obviously still new, but I didn't watch the draft SmackDown or the Go Home SmackDown due to being out of town. But the SmackDown prior, Tama took Kevin Owens out with a car and then bloodied him up real good. So they were trying to make him feel like, he's kind of sadistic and really violent. And just to see them kind of get their comeuppance really quick was a little weird, as it was a brawl around the ring and everywhere around the arena. Eventually getting back into the ring with tables and kendo sticks and the usual rigmarole. But Bloodline would eventually turn it around. There was a close near fall of 2. I think it was Owens with the pin. I don't recall. But we got the debut of not Jacob Fatu, which I think a lot of us were anticipating, but Tonga Loa, a.k.a. Camacho from back in the day. He showed up. I had no idea he was a free agent, so that was a big surprise through and through, so that was cool. I haven't watched any of his stuff over in New Japan, so I can't really talk or speak about Guerrillas of Destiny, him and Thomas' team, and his history there. I know he's been bouncing around, or at least had, since his initial release at WWE in the NXT system, after him and Hunico split. I guess he was in TNA for a little while with McIntyre and LA Knight as a stable. And then, New Japan's where he's been kind of hanging out and doing his thing for tag titles and whatnot. So I would assume he's improved if they're bringing him back here. Hopefully it's not just like, oh, well, you're blood related. Like, Scoot, get your butt in here. So it's excited to see what he can bring to the table, what he can add to this, and see him and Tama work together in the tag division, and see, obviously what they bring to the table. But yeah, total surprise because, yeah, like I said, I think most of us were assuming Jacob Fatu was going to pop up here just with the rumors of like, oh, he signed already. It's just a matter of when he was going to show up. So, yeah, I guess we were thinking this pay-per-view, but apparently not. So we'll have to see. We'll have to keep an eye on it when Jacob Fatu shows up as well. Apparently there's also rumors of like Hikuleo being the third brother, which I guess it's all like an adopted family situation, but Tongaloa is the only real son there, but whatever, that doesn't matter. But rumors of Hikuleo potentially being wanted. So we're gonna have a lot of the big tree showing up again that Rock showed to us. But yeah, good match throughout with the four of them, and excited, like I said, once again to see what Tongaloa brings to the table here. We did get a little bit of a kind of tease of at least a stare down in passing between the new bloodline, if we're going to gimmick name it that, and Jey Uso in the back as he prepped for his match later, with Heyman kind of giving Jey the stare of like, help me, I'm dying. So we'll have to see how this escalates and continues to build as we move forward. Next was the Women's Championship Triple Threat, Bayley against Naomi and Tiffy Stratton. Another good one. I think this was probably the biggest reaction Naomi has gotten since her return, including the Rumble, which, I mean, I'm happy for her. Ladies did a good job here. I don't know if it just wasn't anything going on like super exciting wise. This one I kind of zoned out a little bit, and it kind of just, not paint by numbers, but kind of just went with a normal flow, I would say, of a TV match. We had the finish also was a little bit weird. We had a roll-up attempt by Naomi, and then Bayley flipped the roll-up and got just the win there. No big finishes. I know Tiffany went for the PME on both of them. They both rolled out. She over-rotated, landed on her feet, rolled through, and then tried to follow up, but got reversed. But Naomi didn't hit any finishers. Bayley didn't hit the rose plant, or I think she hit belly to Bayley and kind of lost her grip. So I might have been wrong there. I apologize. But yeah, it just kind of finished out of nowhere. But all three of the ladies seemed very over. I would say Tiffany was probably the least, just in terms of volume from everybody. Granted, she's a bad guy, so that kind of makes sense. But Bayley got a good reaction. Naomi, obviously, as we talked about, also got a huge reaction. Still stayed friendly with each other, Naomi and Bayley, so still got the good guy mechanic there, or relationship there. So Naomi's not going anywhere heel, at least for now. So we'll have to keep an eye on this if Tiffany stays in the picture, if she's more of a favorite for Money in the Bank. Obviously that's July, so 2 months, not too bad. I don't believe any of these ladies are participating in the Queen of the Ring tournament. That seems just to be a Raw show program for both King and Queen, as we would get a bunch of matchups announced later, some taking place as of recording tonight on Monday Night Raw. So yeah, we'll have to see what the SmackDown Women's title picture looks like as we go forward to that pay-per-view and beyond. Next was the World Heavyweight Championship match with Damian Priest going against main event Jey Uso, except not today. Jey also getting a huge reaction. Apparently, this entrance is catching fire as well. I saw there was a clip from the Cleveland Cavaliers, like as a hype man was trying to hype the crowd into doing Usos, or as Usos theme was going on to do that. Some people got it, some people did not. But yeah, this just proved like something's working here, where we're establishing multiple stars and not just having like the Mania 4, Rock, Roman, Cody, Seth getting these huge reactions. We are getting that trickle-down effect where more people are being elevated, reactions are improving, and Jey, obviously with the more interactive element of his entrance, it was huge here. So yeah, to see all the crowd doing, the arm waving with him throughout his entrance and all the lights and whatnot. It was very cool. We talked about it on last week's podcast. I don't like Damian Priest's new theme music. The All Rise stuff, adding that into the song, that's fine. I get it. That's part of his Judgment Day gimmick. You know, you kind of elevate that or evolve that song. But that Archer of Infamy song that he did have, and even that like adjusted theme with the Judgment Day, how like Balor still has elements of his original theme with a twist. Same with Dominic's. Like, I thought that was fine. I'm not a fan of this new one that Priest has. And I don't know if they're workshopping it, because at least this is the first time to my recollection hearing it. But it could have been something they've had established for a few weeks as well. Who knows? But these two did a really great job, I thought. The match was very good. We did get interference from JD McDonough and Finn Balor later on. But we're also seeing that Priest might not want that help here and there. He didn't notice it right away, but as he did retain later after hitting like a super South of Heaven chokeslam on Jay, when Finn and JD came back into the ring after the match was already over, Priest like pushed them off and was like, he's done. You don't need to beat him up anymore. So are we seeing the Judgment Day breakup? Are they trying to make Priest heel? I mean, I'd be fine with that. I think they have a little bit of work to do with Priest to get him to that face position. Like, obviously this helped in terms of like him pushing off the other ones from attacking, but in terms of a bigger picture thing, I'm interested to see how they're going to make that turn, and are they going to be able to make that turn in time for, like, I think we've talked about it, like Drew and Damian going for the title at Clash of the Castle. Drew can win there in his home, get the belt back, and then set up for the Punk story. I mean, I guess that makes sense to make Priest a good guy there, because heel versus heel is just a weird dynamic to kind of pull off in comparison to face. So yeah, they got, I don't remember when Clash of the Castle is, but they got a little while. They can get that going. Not that I want to see Judgment Day break up. I think that's been a good group as well. But yeah, it just seems to be the route they're going. So hopefully they can pull that off with Priest and elevate him. Obviously, he's already been face with the whole initial main roster run and Bad Bunny partnership. So it's not impossible to picture him in that light. It's just going to be interesting to see how it can happen. Then next was the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus the Kabuki Warriors. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch much of this match because I got spoiled on the results prior to watching. I watched it late. So I was like, oh, well, I already know what's going on. Surprisingly, went a decent amount of time, so good for them. There was a good move with Jade and Kairi, where Kairi went for, I don't know if it was like a suplex or something, but there was like a series of readjustments that Jade did to set her up for that glam slam. That was really impressive, showing off her strength there. But in the end, Bianca and Jade would pick up the win. I think Jade hit, is the glam slammer finish? Jaded, that's what she calls it. She hit Jaded, and then Bianca hit KOD Asuka onto Kairi, I think pinned after that. Yeah, I think that's what got the win. But new tag champs, Jade and Bianca together. So the big three, minus Naomi, keeps going for now. So now the women's titles are over on SmackDown. I mean, they were already on SmackDown, I guess, prior. So we'll have to see who they go against. We have all the drafts kind of sticking now after Backlash, like the movements and stuff. So I'm not sure in terms of tag teams who's over there. I know Stark and Baszler are still in Raw. Damage Control went over to Raw. Katana Chance and Carter on Raw. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire on Raw. Who the fuck is on SmackDown? I think Chelsea and Piper are. Oh, Indy and Candice are. So maybe they could go against them because they're bad guys. Not that, they can't cross-promote, obviously, with those belts, but we'll have to see. Hopefully they can keep the momentum going, maybe build the belts up a little bit, some other teams, and then eventually build the tension between each of them, whether it's a SummerSlam fight or a Mania fight, but obviously that's quite some time away. We'll have to see. And then the last match of the night was the undisputed WWE Championship match, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. Cody would retain after a crossroads in the end. We had a couple phenomenal forearms. I believe he had a 450 splash. But AJ looked great. Not that, he's never, not that he lost it, but it's been a little while since I feel like we've seen AJ wrestle to this level, and I feel like he really did a great job with this match. It was another predictable one, but this was another one the crowd really elevated it just with their amount of chanting. They had some phenomenal chant going on that apparently they use in soccer or football when they're making fun of somebody who messes something up, but obviously worked for AJ. Phenomena, and doing this like whole dance and charade throughout the thing. It was very entertaining. I just can only imagine what Cody and AJ were thinking during that. Like, personally, me not understanding the language, thanks to Reddit for explaining what they were actually saying. But it was a good match between those two. And also, like, we had a little bit of the Bullet Club versus Bullet Club there, former leaders. So yeah, all in all, Backlash, once again, pretty predictable, but I would say it was a good time overall, especially once again to the crowd there in France, with their chants, with their energies. So yeah, we'll have to see how things go from here. I think Backlash just kind of suffers a little bit just from, well, one, it's post-Mania, so you don't expect too much to change. And then with the last 2 years with the draft, it's all the people who fought for the titles here, I believe, were against their respective champions of like, oh, they're going to be on SmackDown. Oh, like they're on that show. It wasn't any cross promotion. So it wasn't that big of a deal, I guess. But it's that weird thing of, oh, well, I guess things really just start after Backlash kind of thing officially. Speaking of the draft, I guess let's go over things real quick. As we did have the draft leading up to Backlash, 2 rounds over 2 nights. Seems like a lot of people didn't get drafted, so I don't know if that's just a fuck ton of people free agent role, or if it's like one of those things where it doesn't feel like a lot of names are said, but actually they were covered. But let's see. So SmackDown, we're just going to go show by show, not round by round. SmackDown has Bianca Belair, Carmelo Hayes, surprisingly very early pick. I mean, he's skilled, but like I was like, whoa, really? Orton, Nia Jax, LA Knight, yeah, Bloodline, AJ Styles, Andrade, the OC, Baron Corbin, Cedric Alexander, and Ashante the Adonis, Jade Cargill, Kevin Owens, The Pride, Tiffany Stratton, Legado del Fantasma, Shinsuke Nakamura, Naomi, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Pretty Deadly, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, DIY, Blair Davenport, Apollo Crews, Giovanni Vinci, and Tegan Knox. So that's for SmackDown. Over on Monday Night Raw, we got Jey Uso, Seth frickin' Rollins, Braun Breaker, Liv Morgan, Ricochet, Sheamus, Alpha Academy, Kiana James, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Ivar, Imperium, Gunther and Ludwig, Damage Control, CM Punk, Braun Strowman making his return, the LWO, including Carlito, awkward. Also, no Dragon Lee listed here, that's weird. Drew McIntyre, Judgment Day, minus Rhea, Ilya Dragunov, New Day, Lyra Valkyria, Final Testament, Big Bronson Reed, Natalya, Caden Carter, Katana Chance, Odyssey Jones, Dijak, the Creeds and Ivy Nile, and New Catch Republic Pete Dunne, and Tyler Bate. So, just reading through this again, we do get a little bit of a split with Tegan and Natalya. I know they were trying a tag team thing for a while. Hopefully Tegan can get some momentum behind her. No offense to Natalya. Natalya very skilled, but as we've talked about, not a big fan personally, just because I don't think she has much of a personality. Hopefully Tegan can get something going for her there, have some good matches with either Candice or Bianca, whatever, because they worked in the past in NXT. We'll have to see. Some surprises here. So we got some NXT call-ups. Great, as expected. Ilya losing the title to Trick Williams, making his main roster debut here. Carmelo and Braun obviously moved just prior to the draft. Kiana James, surprised to see her, but definitely deserved. Hopefully she does well. Lyra Valkyria, I was kind of surprised. I thought she was going to stay down there for the women's title thing, but Roxanne's going to hold it down, I guess. And Blair Davenport, another cool one. Didn't seem like she did much in NXT USA. She kind of played this I attack and injured everybody angle, but other than that, she hasn't done much. So hopefully she can catch fire as well on SmackDown. So cool, good for them. And then just going on surprises once again, or at least like, oh, okay. We already talked about Braun Strowman making a return. Glad to see he's healthy. Surprising he's not going to be part of the Bray Wyatt thing, or at least it seems it. The Uncle Howdy stuff. Just with his ties with Bray, I thought maybe he would be part of that new Wyatt Six, or if there is even a group, maybe it's just the internet talking. But good to see him back. We'll see what he does. Apollo Crews getting drafted. Haven't seen him in a minute. Same with Odyssey Jones. Anybody know Odyssey Jones? I do. He got drafted last year from NXT. And he did nothing. I want Odyssey to do stuff. He's not bad. I mean, he's fine. But let's do something with him. I'm glad he's just didn't get called up and released unfortunately like Zion Quinn did and maybe some others. So hopefully they have something planned for him. We'll have to see what it is. Dijak making his return to main roster. Obviously he was T-Bar last time we saw him, but I like the new character and what he's done for himself in NXT. So looking forward to seeing that character on the main roster and seeing him slap the shit out of some people. Seems like Raw's got some heavy hitters. We got Gunther, we got Dragunov, we got Dijak, you got Sheamus, you got McIntyre. I mean, Dunn and Bate can lay it in too. So we're gonna see some heavy dudes kicking ass. I mean, Big Bronson Reed too. Yikes! In the best way possible. It's gonna be good. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what is next for all these folks, and heading into King of the Ring, Clash of the Castle, Money in the Bank, Beyond. And then, I'm just curious with all these people who didn't get drafted, are they just free agent pool and go wherever they want? Is it going to be still we can sign people to our brand type thing? We just didn't pick them in the draft. Time will tell. Might get to see even a little bit of that tonight or this week. We'll see. Moving on to topic 2, let's talk real quick about X-Men 97. We're not doing an episode breakdown, all that. I know we're heading into the finale, I believe, this week as of recording. But I finally got the chance to sit down and watch some of it over my vacation. I definitely was the first 3 episodes I watched all the way through, and then I watched maybe 4, 5, 6 bits and pieces here and there. Wanted to watch it, passed out, not because it was boring. I just put it on as a comfort show to watch, and then fell asleep too. But I am really enjoying what I have seen of the show. I got to see some family over this vacation, and they were talking about it and hyping it up, and just hearing their excitement for it, along with all the people over on X and Twitter and the social media is talking about it. It's oh, this is really good, and they're doing a great job with the characters. And finally sitting down and watching it, I definitely saw that. Now, the original show, obviously, that this continues from, I grew up watching it as a kid with Fox Kids, similar to Spider-Man, but it was one of those things, because it was, TV syndication is not even the right term, because that's repeat episodes, isn't it? Or old shows. I don't know. But usually you're not watching the whole series unless you know exactly when it's a drop in. As a kid, you probably don't. So you catch episodes here and there. And I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed, Jubilee trying to help out and then usually getting into the antics and then having the X-Men come in, save the day, and then having the action figures and whatnot. But it's something I haven't gone back to and watched. But seeing these new episodes and seeing this kind of revived love for it, and obviously what Disney's put behind it and those artists, it just is like, oh yeah, I want more of that. Not that it's going to be obviously them creating it, but going back and watching the original, this gives that not inspiration, but drives that wanting to go check it out. And these episodes, I feel like, do a great job of respecting what came before it, while also taking their storytelling and really giving a little bit more substance to some characters. Granted, longer episodes, so you can do that, but making compelling stories too, while bringing in new characters, or maybe fleshing out characters that didn't get a lot of development in the first series, just because they weren't seen as like main players and whatnot. And it's been a blast. It's still got that cartoony feeling where the episodes can be somewhat of random in elements. Like, there is an overarching story that they are trying to tell, that they will carry over elements from episode to episode. But I believe one of the episodes, like, it was one of those ones I was kind of in and out of. I'm like, what is this? It definitely felt side questy. Like, we're just kind of throwing this over here to break things up a little bit. Still was cool. But yeah, overall, it's been a blast. I am probably going to go into spoiler stuff right now. Once again, not like everything, but just want to give a fair warning. So if you haven't watched the show or you don't want any spoilers, maybe it's now the time to take off and come back to this later. But yeah, just want to talk some cool things, or some things I found really cool, spoiler-ish, and just gush about them. So first thing, Morph. I don't know much about Morph. Honestly, I think the first time I learned of him was Marvel Snap. But seeing him in this show, I didn't think I was going to really care, just because, oh, you can change. It's like Mystique. But I will say a small thing or reason I appreciate him being there for, is just the cameos that we do get. He has the ability to transform like Mystique into other characters, but he can use their mutant power set as well. So through his character, we've seen a lot of different X-Men characters that aren't regulars in the show. And for someone who's played like a Marvel vs. Capcom, or know different characters from, the different outlets or different things I have dipped my toes in with comics and other medias, it's cool. So seeing like a Spiral or a Lady Deathstrike, or I'm trying to think of who else he was. There was some fun ones. Damn. But seeing the different cameos there has been fun, of just like, oh, cool. You get to see them even if they're not, once again, in the show all that often. I think he was Sabretooth at one point too, taunting Wolverine. So that was a little fun inclusion. I appreciate that we get certain characters also kind of like just popping in randomly. I know not an X-Men, but Captain America showing up and later down the line in the episodes. I think I got spoiled, but I think Spider-Man's also going to show up at some point, kind of reflecting on his show of the past and their little crossover. But even other mutants like Forge popping in, like, that wasn't, I think, advertised to my knowledge for the show, and Nightcrawler showing up later. You have Leech in there as one of the Morlocks, I believe, one of the kids there, and Pixie. So cool to see them, and just those different cameos and aspects there of just like, oh, these are people who really care about the world. And that fan service element, I know it's something people have talked about with just the shows that are being now. It's like the people making the shows now are the people who grew up with it, like kids like us, like that grew up with the shows, and now they get their hand to make that kind of thing. And it shows like the people who made this have a lot of love and care for the product and the world that in the realm they're in. So even just to include these little things here and there as just like, I guess, homages to the series and to the comics and whatever in these characters is really cool and fun and rewarding. In terms of a story, there's elements that are really, really cool. There's some that are kind of confusing and comic booky. When you really start to think of it and be like, wait, we're doing this? So we open up, or the main kind of story that they're following is that Professor X, Xavier, was killed by an assassin, so he's no longer around, and it's like, what are the X-Men doing after his death? And Cyclops puts a lot on his shoulders of like trying to be that new leader or trying to figure out how the X-Men can go forward, and you learn how other people are dealing with that, while also a new twist comes into it with the mansion and the school. You see the team work very well together. You get to see some cool choreography and artistry there with the 2D animators. But at the end of the first episode, it's revealed that Charles has given pretty much all of his stuff to Magneto. And we know, obviously, they clash years and years. But Magneto seems to be trying to redeem himself for his friend. And we see this journey that Magneto's going on of like trying to prove Charles right and move forward with a more progressive thinking instead of just lashing out and going after mankind, I guess you could say. So that's been an interesting element that they play around with, and like the different power dynamics and struggles with, obviously, do we trust Magneto, and Rogue's history with Magneto, and like they kind of revisit that, making a weird struggle between Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto himself, and then regaining trust with humans, even though they built it, but then they have him come in. A lot of it focuses on the Sentinels, taking those down, so the machines that are hunting down mutants and trying to eradicate them, or make them extinct. And then, there's points, like I said, it goes into the cartoony hokiness where some storylines are just like kind of thrown in there. For example, Scott and Jean's pregnant, and they have their son, but then at the end of the episode, like, another Jean Grey walks in, and you're like, what? Turns out it's a clone, and then you're like, wait, Scott, you had the baby with the clone. How long was the real Jean gone? And there's that whole drama thing. There was an episode where Sunspot, which another cool cameo character who pops up here and there, and Jubilee get like caught in Mojo World and like a virtual reality. There was another episode where Xavier is either alive. Like I said, this is where I was kind of zoning. He's either alive or it's an alternate universe, but it's him up in space with the Kree, and you see Ronan in there, and I think he's with the Shi'ar, rather, is the group he's with like gladiator fighting, and the relationship Xavier has with some space lady, and it's a whole drama curve there, and it's like, what? So I don't know, and I don't know, obviously, the later episodes leading to the finale, what is going on here. But it's been fun. It's been fun seeing these characters interact with one another and seeing all the different power sets, which I think makes the X-Men really interesting. Similar to like a My Hero, of more modern, just a wide variety of powers that are in the cast of characters you're dealing with, and then seeing how they use them throughout and work together. Like, I think it was just the very first episode, but seeing Cyclops like use his visor instead of just blasting to like maneuver around. Gambit and Wolverine working together, where Gambit would make Wolverine's claws kinetic and then launches him towards a Sentinel and just able to go right through it. Like, that's been really cool. So it's just been a fun time overall. I would definitely recommend people check it out if you haven't already. Whether you like it, like X-Men, or like really involved into it or not, I think it's a good time. Not super duper hokey, typical 20-minute cartoons of past where they got to wrap up the story real quick. You get a little bit more time with episodes. I'd say 40 minutes to an hour probably per episode, so you get a little bit more serious story. Sounds wrong, but a little bit more fleshed out story, and that character dynamics explored a little bit more of like their issues and what they're dealing with. And it's been a good time. So looking forward to going back, rewatching those ones I missed, and seeing how this series turns out. I'm curious if they're going to continue it past this point, if there's any plans for a season 2 based on how popular it has been. Not that they need to. Just curious if that's something they looked into, or if they'll just say, nope, this was a fun project, we're good with one season, and just kind of hit that nostalgia button for a lot of people and leave it where it is, which would be fine. You don't want to force anything. And then, yeah, it just kind of gives me higher hopes for, I know they're doing an animated Spider-Man series, which is a new one, but I think I don't know if it's our MCU Spider-Man in his high school days, or if it's going to just be another fun take of, like, I guess you could just, everything's the multiverse now, but, like, just a separate thing of, like, Peter in high school with the powers. How did he deal with things? Whatever. But it gives me hope for that. And the stories there. I know What If was a little bit hit or miss for people, but it's cool to see the animation team dive into this and flesh out these stories or make something really interesting and compelling with those. So hopefully they can continue doing these animated projects, which I know obviously take a little longer, perhaps, than the live action stuff, but I think this team deserves a lot of credit for what they have pulled off, because it's been very, very captivating and seems like a lot of people are talking highly about it, so good on them. But yeah, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you could catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You could drop a follow over there. You'll get notified when we go live, so you join in on the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and puts one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching or listening to this, if you drop a follow, drop a sub, it may seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Appreciate you guys hanging out today, giving this a watch, giving this a listen. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.